If I could ask the candidates to please make their way forward, we'll begin here in just a few minutes.
I've already messed this up. Okay.
All right, good morning or good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Yucca Valley Chamber of Commerce Forum Candidate Forum. This is our opportunity to get to meet the candidates before the election, and we are very pleased that each of the candidates accepted our invitation. We have Mr. Jeff Droz to my immediate left. Eric Quander is the next gentleman over, and Jerry Wilson is to my far left. And of course, everybody has the nameplate, and you'll get to know them better as they introduce themselves. I'd just like to explain how the evening will proceed. We are going to begin with an invitation for everybody to write a question out, or multiple questions, on a 3x5 card in the back, which will be brought up forward, and then we can ask the questions from here, and then you can get the information you need from the candidates before you vote. So we think it's very important that our community participates, and this is your opportunity to do so. We are going to begin with a 1-minute opening statement from each one of the candidates. Then we're going to move to the question period. We will ask one question. Each of the candidates will answer the same question. Each of the candidates will have a minute to give their response, and we'll essentially just rotate who's going to go first. So if I begin with Jeff, we'll go to his left. Then the next question will begin with Mr. Quander, and then the next question will begin with Ms. Wilson, and we'll just continue to rotate. At the end, each of the candidates are going to have 2 minutes to prepare a closing statement and essentially convince you that they are worthy of your votes come November 8th. So we thank you for that. Just for the candidates' information, we do have the timer, so when you begin speaking, the green light will show right down here up front. At the 30-second mark, the yellow bulb will illuminate. At the 10-second mark, the red bulb will illuminate, and an obnoxious beeping begins. We're going to stop that beeping, but I'm going to cut you off very shortly thereafter. So that's the time. If you guys could all watch that, then things will proceed very smoothly. So with that introduction, I'd like to say I am Richard Gann. I'm a local businessman, and I am the chairman of the Yucca Valley Chamber of Commerce. And it is our pleasure to produce this candidates forum for our fellow citizens in Yucca Valley and for the surrounding areas. And we are very grateful for each one of you who showed up, and we're very grateful for the candidates who took their time to show up. So thank you very much. With that, I'd like to ask Mr. Jeff Droz if you would begin with a 1-minute opening statement, please.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for being here. First, I want to say I'm a 40-year resident of Yucca Valley. Exactly this year is 40 years. I've been a planning commissioner for the town of Yucca Valley for 5 years, and I've been involved in really important decisions with the planning commission we can get into later. I'm a 23-year teacher at Yucca Valley High School, vocational teacher, and I've set up hundreds of internships, thousands of job shadows, and I'm a 1979 graduate of Yucca Valley High School. I teach at Copper Mountain College. I'm a drafter on the side. I'm the foundation director for Yucca Valley High School Career Pathways Foundation, which has awarded over $115,000 to high school students at Yucca Valley High School. I've raised over $15,000 for the Relay for Life Cancer Walk because I'm a cancer survivor. And I have a support group on Facebook for osteosarcoma, which is the kind of cancer I had. I started 6 years ago. We have 2,900 people in that group. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Droz. Mr. Quander, would you please give an opening statement?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Eric Quander is my name. I've been a resident of the Morongo Basin for almost a decade now. I currently am an instructional assistant at Yucca, 29 Palms High School with the Morongo Unified School District, a post that I've held now going on my third year. I am committed to community. My family and I moved here, my wife and I, and we now have a son, moved here because of the quality of life to be experienced here in Yucca Valley. I stand here and sit here before you tonight because I wish to maintain and continue the wonderful tradition and environment that has made this region why we call it home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson, would you please give an opening statement?
I would first like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for giving me this opportunity to personally introduce myself. My name is Jerry Wilson. I've been a resident of Yucca Valley for 20 years. I have been serving the public through the place of my employment for 16 years. This service has allowed me to provide guidance, instruction, and valued services to all of the high desert and its visitors. I want to take this, and it has given me the motivation to do more for my community, to be a part of the bigger picture. As a working mother, my priority has obviously been my children. Now that they are older, I have more freedom to be more actively involved in the community's affairs. I want to take my motivation that I have for serving the public and, to serve the Yucca Valley residents as your town council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Quander, I believe we'll begin with you for the first question. And what are you most concerned about in our community, and what are your plans on addressing that concern?
One of my biggest concerns is actually something that I share with citizens at large, which is enhancing our infrastructure and maintaining the safety of our streets. One of the major ways that I think that situation can be addressed is currently going to be on the ballot. Our half-cent tax measure is going to tremendously enhance our ability to add law enforcement to our streets to keep our streets safe. And so that is one of the major issues that I think is facing our community, and exactly how I think that we can address it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson, the same question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. What are you most concerned about in our community, and what are your plans for addressing that?
Public safety. We definitely need another deputy out there. We need another detective. I think the crime rate has definitely increased since I've lived here, and that is my top priority, as well as the roads as well. So that is my first concern.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
All right. I pretty much agree with the two other candidates here. I think the roads are really important, and the police protection is really important. And how to instigate that, or how to get that moving forward, of course, is passing Measure Y, and Measure Y for Yucca Valley. And I think that will give us a lot of resources. So if and when that passes, we have to make decisions about how many officers we can add to the force. I was thinking it might be a good idea to compensate citizens patrol. So possibly we might get more citizens patrol, and that would increase enforcement and actually have a low cost. So maybe we could attract some retired police officers, and they could be working citizens patrol. And but I pretty much agree with them.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Droz. I'll start with Ms. Wilson. Why should we vote for you over any of the other candidates?
Well, I'm a new face. I bring a new perspective, fresh perspective. And that's about it.
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Droz, why should we vote for you over the other candidates?
I would say longevity and following through with a lot of things with this community for 40 years. I raised my children and my stepchildren here, and kind of like Ms. Wilson, I waited till they grew up before I got involved in the Planning Commission. But I think just being a resident for so long, being on the planning commission for so long, being a teacher here for so long, I graduated from Yucca Valley High School in 1979. I love our community. I even write a blog about it on Desert USA called The Mojo on the Mojave. And I just love our desert, and I want to improve it. I see things, I think our town is run really well, but I think I have some ideas that might help.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The next question. Mr. Droz, we're going to begin with you, sir. I apologize. Mr. Quandra, why should we vote for you over any of the other candidates?
Yes, well,
Apologize.
no, fine. I don't have the longevity that my fellow candidates share. I do not have that. I like to believe that I represent the direction in which our town is going. I represent a relatively new resident who appreciates what Yucca Valley has been, but has an eye to what Yucca Valley can be. And so I have a different perspective, a fresher perspective, I'd like to think. And so that's why I believe that the voters would do right by remembering me on November 8th.
Excellent. Thank you. And now I begin, Mr. Droz. You
All right.
can answer the question first. The question is, our current council has done a good job balancing development while preserving our unique high desert qualities. How would you improve on their performance? And do you agree with that opening sentence?
Yes, I totally agree with it. I think they've done a really great job. The development code has been rewritten, and I was part of rewriting that on the planning commission. And the one big thing we addressed was desert character. I think the town has done a wonderful job. There's always more that can be done. You know, we need bike trails. We need, let's see here. One idea I have is like maybe to try and put art on the medians on 29 Palms Highway. I don't even know if that's possible. I just have a lot of ideas. And one thing is like developing North Park, which a lot of people don't even know about, above the golf course. I think that could be developed for people for hiking, and it's a great resource for people that like the outdoors.
Thank you. Mr. Quander?
Could you repeat the question, please?
I can indeed. Our current council has done a good job balancing development while preserving our unique high desert qualities. How would you improve on their performance? And do you agree with that initial sentence?
I do agree with the initial sentence. I would be honored to serve on the council with the folks like Mr. Abel, Mr. Lombardo as well, and the other councilmen who have really done a great job of giving us a foundation. One of the things that I'd like to see really enhance my work with the Parks and Recreations Department does make me a bit privy to the necessity and the benefit to revitalizing the west end of town, our old town Yucca district. I say that we need to capitalize on us being the door and gateway to this basin and to all of the visitors that come into Joshua Tree National Park. And I say that we are missing an opportunity by not really making that Old Town Yucca very attractive and someplace where people can walk and really get a character and feel for our town. And so as a sitting council member, that is certainly one of the main things that I would like to see happen.
Excellent. Ms. Wilson?
Please repeat the question.
Certainly. Our current council has done a good job balancing development while preserving our unique high desert qualities. How would you improve on their performance? And do you agree with that initial sentence?
I absolutely agree with what our council has already done. What I would do, though, to improve on the development that's already been done, I would like to see when everybody comes into our town, our visitors that come through here, everyone who visits the monuments, I'd like to get the local artist to have murals on some of these maybe vacant buildings that, you know, the town owns. I think that would be a great, that would beautify Yucca Valley. Thank you.
Excellent, wonderful. I believe Mr. Quander is going to begin with this question. Am I in order? If not, it's nothing, I'm
No.
not insulting anybody.
Excuse me.
Or it's not my intent. Okay, the next question is, through Measure X, the people of Yucca Valley voted to not allow any marijuana dispensaries. If elected, will you enact measures consistent with the will of the voters, or will you attempt to go in a different direction?
As a representative of the people, I feel it would be my responsibility to carry out the will of the people. And our community has made its voice very clear on this issue. Albeit we see the benefits that states like Colorado and cities like Denver how they have benefited from such a measure. I believe that as a public servant, it is our duty to uphold the will of the people. And as far as I'm concerned, our community has already addressed this issue.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Wilson?
Measure X. I feel very strongly about this, and the people did speak. We will not have any pot dispensaries here. It is against my moral values to have any kind of that here. Can you repeat the question one more time?
I can.
Thank you.
Though Measure X, or through Measure X, the people of Yucca Valley voted to not allow marijuana dispensaries. If elected, will you work consistent with the will of the voters or seek another direction?
I'll definitely work with the will of what the people have already voted in. That's all I have to say.
Fair enough.
Thank
Mr. Droz?
All right, I feel very strongly about this also. I will do whatever the will of the voters is. I will support, and I think that's really important. But Measure X, I did support because I'm not a user, but when I lost my arm, I lost it from cancer. And unless you've had cancer and went through high-dose chemotherapy for a year and realized that compazine and all the other anti-nausea drugs just don't work, and I was prescribed the marijuana pills, and the pills work better than anything, 100 times better. I don't smoke it, but I had the pills, and some people say, well, why don't they just take the pills then? Because they're really hard to get. They said my insurance company probably wouldn't approve it. So I do support it if it comes to the ballot again, and if it's proper, because a lot of people don't like the smell, including myself. So on small lots, that would not be acceptable. So if it was written in the proper way, I would support it.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Wilson? Well, I've got about 6 questions about Measure Y and Z, so we're going to break them into 2 parts here. Do you support the current tax measure Z, which is the one intended to address the sewer costs going forward? Why or why not?
I do. I am leaning towards a yes on Measure Z. I do support it. The most help, it's going to help everyone in Phase 1, for the most part. It's going to help Phase 2 and 3 as well. But most people who have low income, they all live in Phase 1. And I think those are the people that need the help the most. And that's why I'm in favor of it.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Droz?
I'm definitely in favor of it. I think it's nice to see the town and the water district working together. We had Measure U a few years ago that was very similar to this, and I was really disappointed that it didn't pass. I was actually out there with signs on the highway, past Measure U, and that was to help with the town infrastructure and the sewer system. And I was really disappointed we lost out on a couple of years of revenues for that, but I'm really happy that we have Measure Z, and I totally support it.
Thank you. Mr. Quander?
Yes, total support of Measure Z. Measure Z is demonstrative of the spirit, I think, of our community. We believe in paying our own way, and this measure certainly is demonstrative of our ability and desire to do that in order to have some cost benefits to some of our disenfranchised neighbors that live in the community. And this measure really is going to help save our town in that it will allow more people to stay here than not. Because if not, people were going to have to move because they couldn't afford the sewer tax. So I'm totally in favor of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. Mr. Droz? Yes. Measure Y is the half-cent sales tax that goes into the general fund. Are you in favor of that? Why or why not?
I'm totally in favor of that. Same reason as Measure Z. I supported Measure U, which was basically the same thing. And it will help help our streets. We desperately need street repairs. And when the sewer system comes in, we're going to have like a block of totally new roads from gutter to gutter, curb to curb. And then we're going to have a block of older roads, and then we'll have a block of new roads. It matters where the sewer system is going to be going. And Measure Y will help to fill in those gaps so we have nice roads in the town. And we can't have the roads that we have being built now over the new sewer system deteriorating. So I'm totally in support of Measure Y, yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Quander?
Yes, again, this kind of addresses the first question we were asked, in that Measure Y is going to allow us to pay for the law enforcement and safety that we so desperately value in our community. So, of course, I'm absolutely in support of it. And also, just to bring it back to Measure Z, Measure Y allows for the tourists that are coming into our town to pay. And so we're really going to see the benefits as our tourism continues to escalate. I think that we're going to actually be surprised at the benefit that Measure Y brings to our community in the long run. I think we're going to actually come out very much so on the positive.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Yes, I do support Measure Y. And do we like taxes? No, we don't. But this is one of those necessary evils. Do we need more public safety? Do we need more deputies? Do we need another detective? Absolutely. Do we need better roads? Absolutely. And we have to remember that, as well as Measure Z is concerned, we have to remember that the state tax is actually going to expire, so it'll actually be 0.25% less. So if we do pass both of them, we're not going to see a 1% increase. We're actually only going to see a 0.75, a 3/4 increase. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. So it doesn't seem as bad as it could be. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think I begin now with Mr. Quander.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, she finished, so. This is another question that kind of dovetails into Y and Z, but essentially the measures require oversight committees so that we have citizens controlling, or at least not controlling, but at least impacting where the monies are being spent. How do you see that? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How would you seek to implement that?
Well, democracy is always a good thing. To have citizens, to provide them with an opportunity and platform to make their opinions heard as to how these generated dollars should be spent, can only be a good thing. So I'm totally in support of community oversight committees keeping track of where our dollars are going.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wilson?
Repeat the question.
Well, it had to do with your opinion regarding the oversight committees on the funds raised by Measures Y and Z, and whether you're in favor of them and how you would seek to support those committees.
I am in favor of oversight committees. I think it's necessary. Those will be appointed by the town council. As your council member, I will make sure that the one I have appointed for one for each committee would definitely be accountable, trustworthy, and someone honest, someone who has the best interest of the town in mind.
Excellent.
So yes.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Droz.
First, I want to say that as far as taxes go, I can't recall when I voted, I probably have, but I can't recall when I voted for a federal or state or county tax. But I think local taxes are different. They're more accountable. And an oversight committee makes it accountable because we have people that volunteer to be on this committee and watch over where the money's spent. So yes, I'm in favor of oversight committees, and it's a great thing. That's the great thing about living in a small community. You can watch over the money.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Wilson, yes. How do you believe we should market Yucca Valley to the rest of the world? As a tourist destination solely, or are there other things that you think we should be marketing to the rest of the world?
Well, I do believe at one time we were one of the top 5, I believe, of retirement places to live. So I think that gives us a bonus. I still believe we are. I see I, as at my place of employment, do see a lot of the older generation moving in. I think tourism is also a big benefit here. We have a beautiful desert out there. We have wonderful hiking trails. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Just so you guys know, that beep you're hearing is the 30-second mark.
Ah,
So you still have another 30 seconds
Okay.
before I
All right.
interrupt you. But
All right.
you guys are more succinct than I'm used to. Mr. Droz, the question was, how do we market Yucca Valley as a tourist destination or broader than that? And how do you think we should do so?
Well, I think our environment is it. I mean, we have Joshua Tree National Park, we have the Pipes Canyon Preserve and the Nature Conservancy. We have now the Sand to Snow National Monument. We have the Mojave Preserve out a little further. And what is it, the new one, the Route 66 National Monument. So I think we market the things that people are coming here for. Off-roading activities up in Johnson Valley. I think that needs to be done more in some way. Maybe the businesses need to be encouraged to do it, and I think the chamber is doing it, but I think we need to just, those are the things. You know, you go to Tehachapi, and everywhere you go, you see the Tehachapi Loop, the train. And it's just marketed to the max, and we need to market what we have.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo,
I apologize for being so late. Emergency patient at the end of the day, sorry.
we understand. Welcome, and thank you for arriving. We're going to sift you right into the middle here, as the question was, do you believe that Yucca Valley should be marketed to the rest of the world solely as a tourist destination, or how would you market Yucca Valley to the rest of the world?
I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I do think that marketing Yucca Valley as a tourist destination is a great idea, but I'm a firm believer in a diversified basket of revenue, and I think putting all our marbles in one basket, saying just for as a tourist destination might be a mistake. I do like the idea of what attracts the tourists here is our clean sky and night air, our national parks, and our quality of living. But I think that we need to also look at infrastructure that the town can develop that will attract other people to our community, such as the computer commuters that use a computer to run their business and can live anywhere they choose. So I think that also ought to be a way to market people that can choose where they live and bring their businesses with them by computer.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Mr. Quander?
Yes, I believe that a multi-pronged attack or approach is required as well. Tourism is absolutely something that we must encourage. The high desert is quickly becoming a destination for various types of festivals. But one of the largest opportunities I think we have is selling our quality of life. We have to make this place seem as a place where a young family can come, afford a home, and I'll piggyback on what Councilman Lombardo says, making sure that we have wireless setup and connections so that people can work, live in Yucca Valley, and work anywhere else in the world. We have a wonderful school system that is just getting better every single year. We have wonderful open space. We have affordable housing, and we just have a wonderful quality of life. I believe that that's where our goal is, and that is what we should be showing the world beyond our borders. They're looking for a place like Yucca Valley.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. Before we move on to the next question, I understand what it's like to be kept late at work. Could you give us just a 1-minute introduction? Each of the other candidates did, so that the audience members know who you are, Dr. Lombardo.
I'm Dr. Robert Lombardo. I'm a dentist here in town for the last 30 years. I've been on the town council now for 6 years, and prior to that I was on the planning commission and served as the chairman there. Quite a few people know me, have seen me in town. I'm involved in a lot of the charitable events and have been for all 30 years of my career here. I've raised a family here. My wife has been real active in the community as well. And I have a passion for Yucca Valley. This has been my home for 30 years. I have the reason why I got involved in the early time was because we had talked about things like the sewer since I got here. And it was talked about and never completed. And I'm really pleased to see that we've made progress on that. I think that the town is working well with the water district. We've got a lot to complete still, and I think that the infrastructure of the town is where we need to concentrate some of our efforts now. I would like to see a town where it's a safe, comfortable, and enjoyable place to live, where we connected with the newest technology and we have decent roads to run on, and the quality of our homes and our atmosphere around us is improving all the time. And I think that we can do that if the
Excellent. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
infrastructure
Dr.
will help quite a
Lombardo.
bit. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize. I was explaining that the yellow light was 30 seconds.
Okay.
When the red light goes off, they're going to stop the beeping, so it's not annoying, but I'm going to interrupt.
That's fine.
Okay.
Did I go too far? Okay.
Fair enough. Mr. Quander, we're going to begin the next question with you. What role should the town play in either encouraging or discouraging growth? And how would you address that as a council member?
Please repeat that question.
Sure. What role should the town play in either encouraging or discouraging growth? And what would you do as a council member to do that?
Again, that comes down to the choice of the people. What cannot be avoided is growth. Our community is growing, so we can't avoid that. What I'd like to bring to the table is a conservative perspective as how to manage that growth, how to make sure that we have an infrastructure that can facilitate and address the needs of not only our current citizens, but of new people coming to our region. So I believe that every citizen has the opportunity to make their voice heard as to how we can conservatively grow, maintain the quality of life that we appreciate, while also opening and having open arms to new people in our community.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Please repeat the question.
Absolutely. What role should the town play in either encouraging or discouraging growth? And what role would you take as a council member?
Well, as a council member, it's your job to listen to what the people want, how the people feel. I've actually talked to quite a few people in the past couple months, and a lot of people don't want any more growth than what there already is. But I would definitely listen to the people, listen to the residents of Yucca Valley. But we come to a point where we're gonna grow. It's gonna happen because this is a great place to live. People are gonna realize that. They're gonna move here. They're gonna see that their kids, are benefiting from living here. So I would encourage growth to a certain point, but I still like the unique antiqueness that Yucca Valley has. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Droz?
All right, I think a lot of people attribute our growth to being incorporated, which I don't believe is true, because 29 Palms was incorporated before us, and they haven't grown like we have. I attribute our growth to our area being at the crossroads of two state highways, 247 and 62, and where people turn left to go to Victorville or go straight. And I'm not anti-growth or pro-growth. I think we should just, do what we're doing, market our community, through the Chamber of Commerce. But I don't think we should be actively trying to get people to move here or stop growth. I think it's just going to happen. We have to accept it. We have to deal with it. And you have to plan for it. That's the biggest thing. So many people don't want to plan for it. They want to act like it's not going to happen, it's not supposed to happen, and they don't plan for it. And planning is the biggest part.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Mr. Lombardo?
Repeat the question one more time.
Certainly. What role should the town play in either encouraging or discouraging growth? What role would you take as a council member?
Well, I guess my position has been to allow for what is planned for in our town of Yucca Valley general plan. That was a community outreach where people in the community were approached, give us your suggestions on where we want to take our town. It's done on a regular basis. It's like every 5 or 10 years. It's updated often, and it's supposed to be a comprehensive view of where we're headed. We're kind of mandated by the town, by the state, to prepare for a certain growth, where they kind of do their estimations and think that the state is going to grow, and they're saying, okay, Yucca Valley, you're going to have to handle 40,000 people in your town. So what are you going to do about it? How do you provide for the infrastructure? How do you provide for proper roads and highways? How do you provide for schools? And how do you provide for those kinds of things that are going to be necessary? And I think, to be realistic, you have to be involved in the planning for it ahead of time. And part of it is we need community input. And if you don't want to grow, we need to hear that too. But I think we're in a mode where we aren't self-sufficient yet. We don't raise enough revenues on our own to be fully functional. We count on other money from other places to do our big projects. We haven't built our own sidewalks.
Let me interrupt you at that
sort of
point, because
things.
I have a segue right there to the
Okay.
question. And I'm going to begin this question with Ms. Wilson. The question is, how much is enough as far as commercial growth is concerned? As the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, I would have my own answer to that. But what I would ask, as the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, what role do you see the chamber or the council in supporting business in Yucca Valley? Ms. Wilson, could you address that?
So what was the question?
What role do you see the council in supporting business in the town of Yucca Valley?
Well, we have to remember that businesses bring in revenue, and that's what this town needs, is more revenue. As far as the council is concerned, say the question again, I'm sorry.
Well, you can disagree with me.
I know.
I asked, what role
Well-
do you think the council should play in supporting business?
Well, once again, the council listens to the people. You know, if the people say, you know, we need to support growth, we need to build more business, let people build more businesses here, then that's what I would vote for. If not, then no.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Mr. Droz.
I think the general plan and the development code kind of guide where the town should go as far as businesses. What's allowed is what's allowed. We should follow the rules. We shouldn't have a lot of exceptions to the rules just to attract business, but we shouldn't be trying to detract business. But as far as the Chamber of Commerce, I think we should support the Chamber of Commerce in any way possible, partnerships, helping out with grub stake days. I see we do that now. You know, the town is helping with the fireworks now. And whatever we can do to support the Chamber of Commerce, we should do.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lombardo?
The question is, what should the council do to support business?
Yes. It's a very weighted question. I understand that.
Yeah. I think the town should make itself available to all legal businesses that fit in the description of our general plan. I don't think it's the council's duty to choose winners and losers. I think that the council should promote a healthy economic environment that is easy to understand, so that people can know what the regulations and rules are, so that they're willing to open and take the risk of their capital by building a business in our town. Because it does benefit us all, and we need to become more self-sufficient.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Mr. Quander?
Yes, I look at it that as a council member and as council members, we serve as ambassadors to our town. And I think that we should actually take a somewhat active approach in identifying perhaps light manufacturing businesses that would do well in our town, encouraging local businesses and entrepreneurs to perhaps relocate in our Old Town district. I think that we should take a much more active role. We have a lot of space, and I think that we'd be the perfect environment for one of those San Francisco-based tech companies that want to come down to Yucca Valley, set up shop, hire a few hundred of our citizens, bring some of their staff, and really, you know, turn us around economically. And yes, help us to become more self-sustaining and self-sufficient, which is our long-term goal.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. Mr. Droz? What will Yucca Valley look like 10 years from now? What is your vision for Yucca Valley 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I think Yucca Valley will probably be about 5,000 people larger. We'll have more businesses, probably more chain restaurants, but hopefully, if we do our work correctly, Old Town will still look appealing and Old Townish, and then we'll have the new part of town on the east end of Yucca Valley. I think it'll be an attractive community. We'll have the new national monuments around us. I think we'll have a lot of tourists coming through town, which will help business. I know, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Antelope Valley Freeway from Lancaster, and it's going to dump people out right on Bear Valley Road, which will funnel people through Yucca Valley. So a lot of people, whenever that's built, will be exposed to Yucca Valley, and there probably will be a lot of growth. So maybe not in 10 years, but I think the projections are about 5,000 to 7,000 people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
10 years from now,
Yeah.
we'll have completed our sewer pipeline and reclamation center, and I think that will add vibrancy to the town considerably. I also agree it'll be somewhere in the 5,000 to 7,000 people more in our environment. I think that Yucca Valley will have a thriving business community, including the Old Town area, which I hope to be revitalized with new restaurants. I would like to see art areas and maybe a performance arts center, at least on the drawing boards by then. If not, community areas where maybe an outdoor amphitheater in the planning stages. It's still kind of early in 10 years maybe, but I would like to see places where the community can gather in an area where they could walk or ride bicycles, maybe bike paths that connect key points in Old Town, and more shopping areas and more restaurants I think will come with the sewer. So I think that'll start happening much quicker than 10 years.
Excellent. Mr. Quander?
Yes, in 10 years, I'd like to see us a little closer to being the model community that I think that we could be throughout the United States. A community that has held on to a certain standard, morality, and quality of life that our citizens appreciate. I'd like to see more community gathering spaces. I would like to see a secondary school for so many of our students who don't want to go to college and need to have viable alternative education. I'd like to also see more outreach to our seniors and veterans, more accessibility to programs that we have locally, and we really have to give our kids something to do. I'd like to see that happen so we can keep them out of trouble, keep them on a good path, and because that's the future of our community. I'd like to see us take a more nurturing role in the youth of our community, as well as those who have already served our veterans and seniors.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
10 years from now, I do believe Yucca Valley will grow. I agree with Dr. Lombardo and Jeff. I do believe we'll grow over 5,000 people. I do believe we will have more businesses here as we welcome them in. I'd like to see more smaller businesses come in and thrive here as well. I'd like to see more programming for our senior citizens, more physical activity for them as well as our youth. I'd like to see the senior citizens out there playing shuffleboard. I enjoy watching the children, my children, out on the skateboard park. I'd like to see more of that, but I'd also like to see a Trader Joe's around here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Dr. Lombardo? Well, here's a simple task. The question is, how can we bring the left and right closer together in our community? That was rhetorical when I said it was simple.
Well, it actually isn't that far off. In our town, we have come a long ways. There was a time in our history where we were pretty contentious with one another, and I think we have come to a pretty good situation in the last couple of years here now that we are on a path where things are running smoothly. We're fiscally responsible. We have tried to increase certain areas of our community service outreach to our citizens and provided more services than, but we've always had to keep a balance. And I think the thing for Yucca Valley is we have to be sustainable. We have to know that the revenues that we collect this year are not going to be spent before we get to next year. So I think that the council has done a good job, and with the staff is outstanding here. We've got great staff, great people all the way from the town manager down to the person that cleans and sets up this room. Everybody has their heart in making a better town. They really do. And I think we've gotten very efficient with very few employees. We're very mindful of that. And I think that all we need to do is communicate more. We need to hear from our citizens. I think way too often the council is left without anybody in attendance. And I'm glad to see a good crowd of people here.
I think people really like the Chamber of Commerce.
I
That's
think
why
they
they're
do.
all here. Yeah.
And I think it's great.
Well, I'm going to cut you off there is what that was
Chamber
meant
of Commerce
to do.
has always been a good ally to the town.
Thank you, Dr. Lombardo.
Please repeat the question, sir.
Yes, Mr. Quander. How can we bring the left and right closer together in our community?
One thing that we all share, I believe, despite whatever side of the political aisle we sit on, is that we all want a healthy community. We all want healthy families. We all want great opportunities for our children. We all want to make sure that our elderly are tended and cared for, that people that have served our nation are attended to. We all share those things despite whatever party we're in. And one of the great things that I love about this community is our ability and openness and willingness to talk. Since I've been here, I haven't been a part of some of those old days of the contention. I've seen a desire for us as a community and as a nation to continually move closer together, because being apart is not going to serve anyone. And so it benefits us to look for what we share and look for our commonalities and to recognize that we live in a great nation and that we're only going to get better.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
And repeat the question, please.
Certainly. How can we bring the left and right closer together in our community?
Well, I believe that the left and the right, I think we all share the same idea. We want to keep Yucca Valley beautiful. We love our deserts. We love our night skies. But as part of being a council member, you need to learn, and you need to have an open mind to listen to the left and listen to the right, and come to a compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
I think if everybody votes for the same presidential candidate, that might happen. No, I'm just kidding.
Chance.
Okay. Anyway, no, thing people have to remember is this is a nonpartisan position. You know, some people have a D next to their name or an R, or some people have no party affiliation or libertarian. But when you're in a small town, there is no, it's nonpartisan. For instance, like I mentioned earlier, I generally don't support taxes, but I strongly support Measure Y and Measure Z because it's local and it's a local tax and it can be watched very closely. So I think just pointing that out to people and getting people involved, that we have, having them see we have more in common than differences, I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Droz. Mr. Quander, how would you address the issues of homelessness and addiction recovery?
Oh, a tremendous passion of mine. Yucca Valley, we have among the highest homeless youth throughout the entire Morongo Basin. As far as recovery from addiction, anyone in our community who is really needing help and needs in-house facilities must go all the way down the hill. If should I be elected to serve the people, it will be one of my major goals to open some type of in-home rehabilitation service in our community, so that people in our community that want help to be free from the sin and of addiction can have access to the help that they need. Homeless folks, our youth, we need to have homes. We have so much room here, and I know that our community is a loving and compassionate one, and that we can identify some places where we can house youth temporarily, show them and give them good moral direction, and put them back on the path to being contributing members of our community and to our society. And I think that those are things that everyone, despite whatever party you may be, cares about and recognizes the importance of doing. I think that those should be two major goals of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Recovery from addiction, it's hard, it really is. I'd honestly have to do my homework on that and see. I would like to bring in the resources from the county or from the state as far as getting any kind of grants, something we can open up here locally for the Morongo Basin for everybody with an addiction issue. As far as the homeless goes, I feel the same way. I would like to see a place where the homeless can go and be supported by our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
I have to claim the same ignorance about addiction. I thought we had Panorama Ranch and several other addiction places up here, but I'm not sure. But I think one thing that I think is passing measure Y will actually help this. And let me tell you why. Because having more police on the street that will have the time to help the homeless, point them in the right direction. I mean, we have Morongo Basin Haven that is for the homeless, and they help the homeless, and we have Unity Home for domestic violence. We have a lot of resources up here. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel, and we need to get people involved in what we already have and build on that. And more police and having more time on the streets might help that, not to arrest them, but to guide them to the proper place.
Excellent, thank you. Dr. Lombardo?
The homeless issue is a hard one to address because it's very much involved with mental illness a lot of times and drug addiction. And it's a very difficult population to put a real good hard fact base on. There's a wide variety of reasons why people are homeless, and some of them choose to be that way and resist being helped. We have a program through the current sheriff's department where the sheriffs are in outreach with people that they come across, especially vets. If they are homeless, they're asked, do you want to be, or do you want shelter? And they can get shelter almost immediately through a program that's offered through San Bernardino County through the sheriff's department. The addiction problems are also a mental health issue in a lot of ways. We do have psychological services up here that are available. They are sparse, and we have much more need than there are services. And we've had some problems with some of the places like Panorama Ranch that you mentioned, I think has closed down, and some of the others have had troubles with zoning. So maybe that's someplace that we could approach it as a council. We could look at the zoning laws that might allow for addiction homes, recovery homes and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. I started with you, right, Mr. Quander? Yes, I did. Okay, Ms. Wilson, how much time away from your full-time work can you devote to the various committees and your duties as a council member?
Well, as you know, as I've told you before, I have 2 children, but they're much older. My youngest is 12. Coming to the town council meetings, I'm actually bringing him with me, kind of giving him a little bit of a government class, if you will. But I do intend on involving my children in everything I'm doing. I currently am kind of in charge at work, not per se the supervisor, but I can compromise on the time that I have at work. I can be at the functions. I can dedicate myself to this town, and I am ready to serve at any time.
Thank you. Mr. Droz?
Well, I've served on the Planning Commission for 5 years, so that's almost every Tuesday night or every other Tuesday night. So I definitely can make the time, of course, for the council meetings, because that would be no longer if I were elected. But the other thing is I teach at Yucca Valley High School, and I get off by 2 o'clock. So I do have extra time, but I do work at the college part-time, but my schedule is really flexible. and I'm definitely available, and I feel like I fit the position perfectly.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo.
I am entering the wonderful stage of life called the empty nest. My oldest is about to graduate graduate school with a marriage and family therapy degree. My youngest is graduating Notre Dame this year with a degree in computer science, and they are both going to be employed when they graduate, and I am thoroughly thrilled. I'm enjoying time with my wife now, and we've been fortunate in that at work I'm starting to wind down. I have several associates that are working with me, except for today. They weren't there. I work on Thursdays alone, but I've been able to get the time off early for the council meetings, and I've attended several of the conferences, and we're going to an event down in Long Beach for 3 days. I've arranged to have those times off. So it is time consuming. It's something I have a passion for. I enjoy planning and ideas and trying to make things happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Mr. Quander.
Yes. Well, I think that it's so important. My wife and I discussed this at great detail before I actually submitted my name. We love this community, and we're going to be here for a long time. We're looking forward to raising our son here. And so we have a vested interest in seeing our community grow in a positive direction. And there are enough hours in the day. You just have to prioritize effectively. So I don't think that would be an issue at all.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think we started with Ms. Wilson.
Back over to Jeff.
I think it's me.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just deciding which of the
Find out
questions
what to
from
ask
we got sent in. How do you feel about the Supreme Court ruling that prayer to open town council meetings is constitutional?
Is constitutional.
Is constitutional. There's some, never mind. The question is, how do you feel about prayer to open town council meetings being ruled constitutional?
I think that's fine as long as they, I know there was a thing a couple years ago where some people were complaining that it was the same people from the same church every meeting, and then they started rotating it. So I think it's fine, and I support that.
Thank you. Dr. Lombardo?
I encourage it. I think spirituality is an important part of life. Without it, you're missing something. And I also like the idea of it being spread around to different faiths and different pastors and different ministers. I think it's a good thing.
Excellent. Mr. Quander?
Yes, I think that I share the perspective of Dr. Lombardo, that spirituality is a cornerstone of our well-being as human beings, and that it behooves us to observe it at every opportunity that we can.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson?
I agree as well. I would encourage it. I would hope that it would never go unconstitutional. I start my day out every morning. I start out praying, and that's what gets me going and gets me through my day, and I hope that it doesn't go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Dr. Lombardo, how do you understand and define the role of a council person?
I see the role of a council person as a conduit for public expression and as a person to help plan and organize the direction. I don't see us as micromanagers of let's, go and twist the employees to do their job better or differently. I see us as trying to be a source for a positive and continual direction for an improvement. It's important that there be continuity in the town council. If not always agreement, but there needs to be some kind of a synergy where everybody is working with the same purpose. So I see a council member's important job as to help the town function efficiently.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Mr. Quander?
Yes, I think it's a great opportunity to, as a council person, to be a vehicle for the voice and will of the people. That's the great thing about our democracy, is that the people get to make their wishes known through the people that they elect to represent them. And it is our sacred duty to execute the will of the people to the best of our ability. And it's just a great opportunity to see and to play an active role in how your community grows and the direction that it will take.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
As a town council member, I think it's important to listen to the people, to listen to both sides, to do your research on the issues, to analyze all the facts, before you reach a decision, integrate your ideas with the other council members, come to an agreement, work for the town, and you have to remember, you work for the citizens, you work for the residents, and you compromise on both ends. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Droz?
All right. I think that first off, you listen to the community, and that is a skill that you acquire. Actually, I realized being on the Planning Commission for 5 years is that sometimes when there are hot issues, there are people that are really loud, but sometimes the majority of the people are not as loud as the few loud people. So you have to be able to separate what did the majority of the people want and not the loudest. And then from there, you have to decide, you have to listen to the town and the town legal counsel, because whatever's being proposed, you can't put the town at a legal risk. If somebody sues the town and gets $1 million and the town has a $10 million budget, I mean, what good does that do? So you have to follow the laws. But after you take that all into consideration, then of course you make a decision.
Thank you. You should always listen to the attorneys. I tell my wife that regularly.
Excellent.
All right. We've had various questions here about family roller skating rings and the skateboard program. I was here when a Olympic pool was proposed. What sort of community and recreational facilities do you envision and would work towards? And I forget who to start with now. I think Mr. Quander.
Yes, I like how our skate parks are coming along. I am now working with a company based out of Hermosa Beach, a skateboarding company, to enhance some of our regional facilities. We're kind of exploring our options. We definitely need to provide some entertainment for our youth. I'd love to see more evening events for our youth, like on the weekends, things that'll really get them excited. I'd like to see a roller skating rink. I'd love to see a putt-putt golf. That's what I think would be really great. Wouldn't that be great on the highway? And of course, Mr. Lombardo and myself share a passion for the power of theater, and we really could benefit from an outdoor theater venue. And that is something that I would love to see happen in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Well, I was also here when they proposed for the pool. I thought that was a fantastic idea. It benefits the whole Morongo Basin. It provides activities for the youth and the older generation as well. I'd like to see more of our senior citizens out there with more physical, doing more games and whatnot, having more physical activity, as well as the youth. Would I like a roller rink? Oh yeah, I grew up in a roller rink. I had a blast. So yes, I would like a roller rink, I would like a pool, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
All right, thank you. I believe that question can be kind of misleading. The town wants to do all it can for the youth, but it should not be competing with businesses. We should not be going into business and building roller rinks if there's not a demand for it. If it was free, I guess there would be a lot of participation, but we have so many things for students, for young people to do. When you look at the community guide, I printed this out earlier, there are pages and pages of activities for young people. And part of that is getting that information to the parent so they can get the students involved. So there are activities here at the town, there's activities at the high school, but we do need to enhance that. Maybe the skate park was pretty high tech in its day and it's not anymore. And there are things we can do that, but actually going into private industry, I mean, the town, I don't believe can do that, but we need to encourage all the activities we can for students.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
I would like to see more high-tech robotic summer camps offered by our school, offered by the college. I would like to see entrepreneur classes, things that would draw people and let them express their creativity in a way that might benefit the whole community. I am definitely in favor of an outdoor or a performing arts center area, an arena, a rodeo stadium. Those things I think kind of have a tradition here in Yucca Valley. A rodeo would be a nice thing to set up in a way that it was somewhere localized or centralized and had the facilities like bathrooms and a snack bar kind of thing, or set up so it could be easily set up and taken down at the rodeo event time, but had some permanent features to it that could either be used maybe by equestrians in the future. I kind of probably got off the track a little bit here, but
Well, no,
I got 1,000 ideas of things I'd like to see happen in Yucca Valley, but what I really need is somebody like Elon Musk or somebody to say, hey, here's an unlimited budget, go to it, buddy. I have seen things that I really like, an entrepreneur place that they've done in Las Vegas with containers, where they made a container park, and they took moving containers that, the 20-foot containers that you stuff in and move it on a truck. They built an entire entrepreneurial area where everybody set up a business and they decorated their little container. They set up an outdoor arena where there's stage and play and music. There's an area where you can display art. They actually got the artists involved in doing some of the containers, and they're beautiful.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask a similar question here so you can
I can
continue
go
your
on and
answer
on.
shortly. Yes, I understand. Ms. Wilson, I got to find it. What are you going to do to help our youth locally? What would you support? What would your positions be?
I would support more programs for them. I would definitely probably support the Boys and Girls Club a little bit more. I think that's a great place to go. My son goes there. He enjoys it tremendously. More of a clubhouse type deal. They have activities within them. They go out places during the summer. They provide a great program for our youth. I would support activities within town, outside activities, basically.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz.
All right, I agree with that. I mean, I think that the Boys and Girls Club, what's really encouraging is that we went like 30 years without a new park in this town, and then in 1 year we got Essig Park with the dog park up there, and then we got Brem Sports Park, and with the Miracle League field. I think there's a lot of activities here. We always need more, don't get me wrong. We can always use more, and if there's something we can do, we should do it. Like Joshua Tree has a splash park, and we should do anything we can to encourage that. But community outreach is the big thing. I think there's more stuff that this town does that people don't know about. There are so many sports activities. In the high school, there's clubs, there's sports. There is a lot, and I don't think the parents know about it, or maybe sometimes parents don't get their students involved or their children involved, but I think outreach is really important for what we already have.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo.
There are lots of things we can do to help our youth. I think the town has done an excellent job in the last few years, for sure, on trying to bring things to the various parks that are cost effective. The major problem for the town is budget. We've got to be sustainable. We've got to stay within our limits. And until we get more revenues, we're kind of constrained. And I think any member that's going to be on the council has to be realistic with that. But I think that there are things we can use the money effectively, and I think the Park and Rec department has done a wonderful job of bringing things like the water sliders and the blow-up stuff to Jacobs Park and to Paradise Park. And we've rebuilt Paradise Park now to make it a little bit more functional. There's still some things that need to be completed there, I think, to make it a warming environment. and comfortable environment for everyone. But I think the efficient use of money that we do have for things like the blow-up sliding water thing, we do need a water park of some sort for our youth in our community. It's just a necessity, I think, in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Quander.
I do share some of the belief with Mr. Droz that there are a sufficient number of programs available to our youth. However, we are seeing that there's some type of disconnect wherein the youth aren't taking advantage or are not attracted to some of the programs that we have to offer. So I think that we should really work closely with our youth ambassadors that work with Parks and Recreations and make sure that we're providing them with opportunities and experiences that they are really going to appreciate. So I think that that's something that we can do. Also, in my community of Paradise, talking about the revamping of the Paradise Community Center, what I did is I just went around to people's doors and knocked on their doors and said, okay, so we're going to reopen the Paradise Community Center. What type of programs do you want to see happen? What do you want to see your children doing? That's exemplary of our need to go to people's homes, knock on their doors, ask them, and they'll tell you. And what the parents told me is they want enrichment courses, they want education courses, they want those entrepreneurial courses that were mentioned earlier. So we have the spaces to do it. We just have to make sure we have the proper planning to execute.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Quander. And I think I began that question with Ms. Wilson. Okay. Mr. Droz. What is most essential that voters understand about you? Why should they vote for you?
I think that my commitment, I think I've said this before, but I want to stress it again, my commitment to this community, being here so long, investing so much. I've been with the same program at Yucca Valley High School, giving out scholarships for 19 years now. We've awarded over $120,000 in scholarships to Yucca Valley High School students. Participating in local Relay for Life, raising over $15,000. Setting up internships and job shadows. I just have longevity. I've proven that I follow through with the things I start, and I don't overextend myself to where I'm not going to follow through. So I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like I'm level-headed and can make good decisions. And I take the public's opinion very seriously.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Mr. Lombardo?
I would like everybody to know I like a challenge. I like to see things get done. I can process a fair amount of information, even if it's technical, and come up with a fair-minded evaluation of it. I'm open-minded. I'm a little loud and outspoken at times, but I am willing to listen to anybody express their ideas. I thrive on a good conversation with an intelligent mind, and I would very much enjoy being at this post again. I have a lot to continue.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Lombardo. Mr. Quander?
I deserve your vote if you want a candidate and representative that is truly going to be committed to executing the will and desire of the people and the community. Many will express their concern about, speaking up for the citizens, and there's been enough time. And so I'd like to represent a fresh perspective, a new approach to maintaining some of the things that we value. And so that's why I think you should vote for me.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson?
Well, as you know, at my place of employment for the past 16 years, I've at least seen each and every one of you at least once or twice. I do believe I have gained your trust. You can see that I have patience, lots of it. I will listen and act on your behalf and do everything in my power. I am trustworthy and honest. And just know that I may not have all the answers you want to hear, but my heart is here. I sincerely care about the future of Yucca Valley. I want to be a part of it. I want to see it grow to a limit. I want to see it grow, but it's going to happen, and I want to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next question is, I am the chairman of the Yucca Valley Chamber of Commerce. What business experience would you bring to the town council And I think we're starting with you, Dr. Lombardo.
What business experience would I bring? Well, I've had a lot of experience with employees. I've run a successful business for 30 years here in town. I've hired a lot of people. I look at a lot of town things with the eye of a businessman, trying to make it more efficient. Sometimes I'm a little frustrated with the procedures that we must go through and the way that things are done, but I do understand a budget and how to stay within it. I understand the compartmentalizing of various monies so that they're used only in those areas, which I think is a little tough for some people to understand. When they first start council, you think, oh, you got $10 million to spend, let's do all these things we want to do, but so much of that money is already earmarked in a way that you can't just spend it on a program for the kids unless it comes from a certain pile of money that is allowed for that. So I think I have experience on the council for the last 6 years, and I think that hopefully that will
Thank you.
be carried through.
Appreciate that, Dr. Lombardo. Mr. Quander, again, what business experience would you bring to the town council?
Well, business is about relationships. Having come from a career in the entertainment industry and even now working in education, my days have always consisted of communicating with others, building networks of relationships, maintaining open lines of communication, listening to the other perspective and the other point of view, taking that into consideration. And it's really helped to enhance and develop my leadership skills. And that's what you do as a council person. You listen, you execute, you make decisions and determinations based on the input that you get from your constituents.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Well, I don't own any businesses in town, but I have been taught by my father, who did run a business at one point, and he taught me the financial aspects of everything and how to stay within a budget, you know, what to look for, how to spend it, how to be cost efficient, and as well as my work. I've learned we have a budget with the Postal Service. So it's important to stay within that budget, to spend wisely, to interact with the community and your employees and your coworkers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
Does monkey business count? No?
You get to deflect the question however you would like.
Okay. Well, I don't have a lot of personal business experience. I do have my drafting that I do in the summer. That's kind of a part-time business. But I would say that I was talking to somebody once, and I said, I could never be a salesman. And this person said, well, you are. You set up all these internships and job shadows. Like I said, I've done thousands of shadows, hundreds of internships. And I'm always dealing with people, asking for things, usually asking things for free, setting up our golf tournaments we do. And I think I deal well with people, and I'm good at marketing. And as far as owning a business, I don't own a business. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Droz. I would like to say those internships for the students are marvelous for the businesses and the students. And as a business owner, I think it's a great way for me to stay involved with the community. And I thank you for spearheading that program for all the years I've been here. It is a great program. Okay, yes, you started. I just did. Believe. Okay, I've lost track. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Quander. The question presented was, how do we handle a rise in home burglaries, and I'm going to add, or other property crimes, other than Measure Y is what the question is asking for. So how do you think we should address crime in our community and property crimes that cost businesses money and people money?
I think a lot of that has to do with police presence and police relationship with the community. I'm from the South, and we knew all the sheriffs that drove up and down our road. I'd like to see our sheriff's division interacting more with the community, rolling down that window, getting out that car, saying hello, finding out who your neighbors are, whose streets are you patrolling. I believe that also there should be a lot more citizen-to-citizen contact. One of the great things that we're experiencing right now in Paradise is a group of fathers. We just kind of go around the neighborhood a couple of times a week and make sure everything's cool. That's what we do. So we don't. So I would have to actually. This brings me to a point that Ms. Wilson said earlier that she believed that there had been an increase in crime. Actually, statistics show that crime has steadily gone down in our community over the last several years. Our job as council would be to make sure that it continues to go down. So I don't think we really have a crime problem, but to just make sure that we stay on top of it, let's get our communities watching each other, neighbors and neighbors. That's the great thing about Yucca Valley. We all know each other, so we're going to watch each other's houses anyway, so why not extend that over to business anyway? So it's worked very well for our community in Paradise, and I think that it can have an effect overall.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Well, we do have a budget, so, if Measure Y does not pass, we cannot hire another deputy or detective. But what is free is Neighborhood Watch, and that was brought to my attention. The one thing that they do need is just signs. That's all it is. They're only $40, $50 from what I've been told, but I'd still have to do my homework on that. I think we can at least provide that for them. It's all volunteer-based, and I think if our community comes together a little bit more, we can make more neighborhood watches, get the community together, make it friendly between the neighbors. I think, some neighborhoods, they're scared of their next door neighbor, but I think, if we can come out to each neighborhood and try to, just knock on doors and say, would you like to be a part of this? This is what's happened last year. Yes, crime has decreased this year, but I do believe it was up, the home burglaries and whatnot last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
I totally agree about a neighborhood watch. That's something that's affordable. You just get the neighborhood together, you meet, and you have the signs, and people are looking out for each other. So that's an affordable way if Measure Y was not to pass. And the other thing I mentioned earlier I'd like to touch on is getting more citizens patrol. I think if we compensated them some small amount, maybe $100 a month or whatever the number is, that's within the town's budget. And if we had more citizens patrolling the streets, I think that would have a huge effect. And I really think just $100 a month would attract the elderly or retired people to join Citizens Patrol and use their skills that they've learned throughout life.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
The Citizens Patrol is a wonderful group, and they definitely need to be encouraged and coddled a little more. I've heard some stories that I was shocked at how they were treated, and people that have devoted 20 years of their time to patrolling around our neighborhoods and then just dismissed in an offhanded fashion. It just doesn't seem right. I think we ought to be praising our volunteers much more. We ought to be making a bigger deal of it. It definitely should be encouraged. Citizen Watch is a great idea too, and I think with the more high-tech devices that are available to us nowadays, the video cameras and stuff for our own properties, the ability to take a picture of something suspicious with your cell phone camera and diddling it away to the town on the website makes great sense to me, so that others are aware of what's going on. I think without, if for some reason the tax measure does not pass, that would be a sign to me as a council person that our town wants to live within the budget that we have now. And it would mean a curtailing of other activities, because our top priority is community safety. And I think that is having a safe community is a linchpin to everything else. And I hate to say it, but every year the cost of an officer goes up because they have cost of living increases in their contracts. And it's going to be an expensive event every time we have to look at that new cost raise in the new budget. Without rising revenues, we have a problem.
There's no way to make them live within their budget. That was rhetorical. I'm just, okay.
It's
So
one
I
of
think,
those
Ms.
things.
Wilson, we're going to start the next question with you. If elected, would you primarily represent the voter bloc that helped get you elected, or all community members?
Definitely all community members. I would thank my supporters. But being a town council member, you have to listen to both sides at all times. Do your research, as I've stated before. I believe it's important to gain the trust of the left and the right, if you say. That's your job as a council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. If elected, would you primarily represent the voter bloc that helped get you elected, or all community members?
Oh, definitely all community members. I would think the block that helped me get elected would realize that I'm there for the whole community, and they would trust my judgment and know that I'm listening to the whole community, the community as a whole. So definitely the whole community.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
Well, of course, I would want to help those that elected me, but I want everybody to think that they can come to me and I will help them, even if I don't agree with what the idea is. If the idea is better for our community, I want to be on board to help.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Quander?
Yes, I think that it is absolutely imperative that representation represents the majority of the community, and that we hear all voices and give everyone an opportunity to voice their concerns, to voice their desires and their beliefs as to which direction we should go. And I think that too many of our citizens feel that it has not been that way for too long. And so I'd like to be the type of leadership that changes that.
Thank you. Mr. Droz? Let's see. In your opinion, how important is working collaboratively with other council members, and what plans do you have to work with your fellow council members?
I think that's really important. Even when you talk to employers, sometimes the job skill is less important than the person's ability to get along with other people. So I feel like I have that ability, and I would strive to work hand in hand with my council members. Well, not hand in hand. But anyway, I really would, and I feel like I'm good at that, and that's a strong point of mine. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
How would I work with other council members?
Yes, how important do you think it is to work with other council members, and if you think
they
it's important?
show up all the time. I don't know why, but okay. Yeah, no, I think I have a good working relationships with my other council members as it stands currently, and I am welcoming to new faces. If obviously there's going to be some new people on the council with this election, and I hope I'm one of them. So I hope I work well with the other council members.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Quander?
Yes, it's all about, again, as I said earlier, relationship and network building. As council members, we all are geared towards the same objective as to making our town as successful and as viable and as self-sustaining as we can. And so it behooves us to work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm with each other to meet that objective. And so it's about maintaining positive relationships and open lines of dialogue and communication.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
I think it's very important to work along well with your fellow council members. They may be getting something or hearing something from the community that you're not. I think each council member brings something different to the table that the other doesn't. And I think bringing all of those gifts and skills that each one of us would have would be an asset. And you have to compromise. You have to come together and compromise, whether you agree or disagree. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lombardo, I think we're starting with you. What is your position with regard to assessing impact fees to commercial developers?
I was in favor of it in the past, and I am still in favor of it. I think it's important to raise the funds necessary to mitigate the events that happen when you bring in growth and business. But I do believe that the impact fees need to be reasonable. They need to be applied fairly and across the board. so that we have the money to do the things that will keep our town functioning and attractive and encouraging business. We can't have them so onerous that nobody can open a business. And I think the way that the council and the town has arranged the impact fees is reasonably fair, and I think it impacts the larger commercial entities which are better able to pay it in a way that is not going to keep them out and is fair, and it limits the amount of exposure to the smaller business in a more reasonable way, because I think it's based on square footage. And the fees are doable. They're always expensive as a small business person. I know when I had to pay my fees, I was a little shocked, but it's doable.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Mr. Quander, what is your position with regard to assessing impact fees to commercial developers?
Well, I think that's a matter that should be readdressed right now. All we need to do is look back to the forefathers of our nation, and we live in a free enterprise system, in a free market, and so we want to maintain that. However, it is our responsibility as citizens to make sure that the small business person has an opportunity and the wherewithal and the economic incentive to have their business here. For larger chain store-like stores and restaurants, providing them with an opportunity to have their business here should be presented as that, an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we're asking them to invest in. So if they see our community as the type of place where they want to have a business, then demonstrate that faith by paying the impact fees that will help our community grow. But I think it's a matter that needs to be readdressed and reassessed.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
I'm not too familiar with how much it actually costs today to open a business. I know the basics of impact fees. I do believe that they are necessary. When you bring in a new chain or a new building, it affects the whole neighborhood around you. You need to build sidewalks so people can walk to the store. There's so much involved in building, making it accessible to your, what's the word? I can't think of the word. But I do believe it should be fair among all, as far as larger chains, larger buildings, smaller buildings. I don't feel the smaller businesses should get the impact fee that the bigger businesses are getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Droz?
I pretty much agree with everybody else. I agree with impact fees, and I believe they should be tiered so smaller businesses have less of a burden. Larger businesses will probably come to Yucca Valley anyway, and whatever's fair is fair, but it should be less for small businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Mr. Quander? Sir, what do you envision the role of the Chamber of Commerce in Yucca Valley?
If the council members, as I said earlier, are ambassadors to businesses coming into our community, then the Chamber of Commerce certainly serves as stewards of that ambassadorship. We should rely upon the Chamber of Commerce as being among the first points of contact for businesses coming into our community. Help foster the belief in those businesses that Yucca Valley is the place where they want to be, and being familiar with the leadership of the organization, I know that our Chamber of Commerce is totally able to do that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quander. Ms. Wilson?
Can you repeat the question?
I can. What do you envision the role of the Chamber of Commerce in Yucca Valley to be?
To be?
What should it be? How do you envision Chamber of Commerce in our town?
I believe that should be the first stop for businesses to make. I think it's important to have that relationship between the council, between the town and the Chamber of Commerce. I think the two not get along, but once again, I can't find the word for it. Complement each other. That's what I'm looking for. The Chamber of Commerce does a lot for this town, a lot for their businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Droz?
I believe the Chamber of Commerce's job is to promote business and also residents moving here. And that's their role. But the town should be there to support the chamber and plan for that growth that might happen because of that. I think the chamber also, and it does a good job of this, of helping existing businesses with advertising, with ribbon cuttings, with signs or ideas, workshops maybe to help the businesses out. So I just think they're there to help businesses and to encourage growth of the community through homes and businesses also.
Thank you, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
There's a really excellent working relationship, I feel, between the Chamber of Commerce and the town, and it has provided a lot of nice events for our community. It's encouraged a lot of small businesses to open, and it's helped keep them healthy. I've always enjoyed interacting with the chamber. I think we mutually support each other in promoting the town. There's a lot of opportunity for the town managers and the town council people to be in these events where they showcase their town to prospective mall builders or business owners that are looking for franchise opportunities and that sort of thing. And I think the Chamber of Commerce has a large role in that, in helping to make Yucca Valley visible on the internet and in their advertisements. They're also a great source when people call and ask about, what's in town and how do I get started. I'd like to see a junior Chamber of Commerce with maybe where we could get younger people and make it like a social gathering where they could exchange entrepreneurial ideas and encourage the young business people, maybe from our high school, to move into a leadership position in Chamber of Commerce in the future or in the business world by encouraging them to set up their own little business and get it started, even as a high schooler. I know it's possible. I've seen it done.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Actually, thank you to all of the candidates. As much as I like to be the center of things, I have to give you enough time to give a closing statement. So I think what we agreed upon was each member would have 2 minutes to give a closing statement. We're going to do once through the lights and then a second time through the lights. But I'll be a little more lenient. I'd like to hear what you guys each have to say. This is your opportunity to ask for the votes of the audience members and the citizens of our town. And I think, Ms. Wilson, we'll start with you. I asked Mr. Quander to go first on the last question. So you have the floor, ma'am.
All right. Well, I am an independent and strong woman. I listen with an open mind. I analyze the facts before reaching any kind of decision. I've attended several town council meetings during the past year. I realize that the town requires efficient leadership, which is something I can give to you. I'm not that best at public speaking, but know that my heart is here. I love this town. I am highly motivated to partner with the rest of the town council to further develop our community services and services offered to our residents. Being new, I bring a fresh perspective, a renewed leadership for today's challenges as your council member. I look forward to being an influential part of the bigger picture involving the progression of our town's infrastructure. Let me give you three concrete reasons why you should vote for me. I'm trustworthy, I am honest. Number 2, I will listen and do everything in my power to act on your behalf. 3, I sincerely care about the future of Yucca Valley. I love this town. I love the fact that I've raised my children here. I just want to thank you all very much for being here, being a part of my bid to be elected on town council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Droz?
All right. I'll kind of repeat what I said earlier, but I think you guys, the community should vote for me because of my love for the community, my longevity, my success rate of all the things that I have done in this community for 40 years. And I think I'm the right person for the job. I have the time, I have the will, and I have experience. I've been on the Planning Commission 5 years, 23 years teaching at the high school, 4 years teaching at Copper Mountain College. That's giving out all the scholarships we've given out. I feel like I've done a lot for the community. And the community gave to me at one time, and I always wanted to give back, because when I lost my arm from cancer 13 years ago, this is before GoFundMe, there were a lot of jars around town with my picture pasted on it, and they were raising money for me to help me get through my cancer treatments. And this community raised $7,000 to help me through my cancer treatments. And I just love this community. And before I go, I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to remind everyone, not just for me, but there are materials over here on the side. And I'm self-funded. I'm not taking donations. And I have magnets that you can put on your car if you support me. There are signs over there you can put in your business window or your home window. And I have business cards on the first table over there. So if you support me, take a car magnet and put it on your car. And if you vote for me, thank you for your vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Droz. Dr. Lombardo?
Well, I would like to earn your vote. I think that you've seen me perform in the last 6 years as council member. There are a lot of things that I want to continue. I like to think of myself as a problem solver and a consensus builder. I like to see things get done. That gives me great joy. And we've completed a lot of projects lately, and now I think the job of the council will be to dream into the future what is possible and to lead us fiscally responsibly to that location. But it's important to dream, and I'm a creative person. I've traveled a lot and have seen a wide variety of things that I keep trying to bring back to Yucca Valley, things that I've seen in little towns all over the world. And the ideas are the same. We all want similar things no matter who we are, in what country we live. We all want a better place for our children. We want a place where we can be treated with dignity. We want a place where we can be healthy and do the activities that we enjoy. And I think that I have a lot to offer to the town. I have another job, so this is not my only way of making a living, and I do want to continue, but I think that I will work very hard to earn your trust again in the next 4 years. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Mr. Quander?
You know, we live in the desert, and some people say that we're not supposed to be here, that this terrain wasn't created to sustain, communities such as ours. But we're here, and we have a road ahead of us, a road of promise and of hope and opportunity. And I'd like to bring a fresh perspective to the direction that our community is going. Yucca Valley in so many ways represents the beauty and promise of all that America is. So many people from different places around the country that have come to this little community and made it home. And that's just a glorious, glorious thing. And to see the future of Yucca Valley, when you say 10 years from now, it looks very bright and very promising. And now it's up to us on November the 8th to cast our votes for the type of leadership that will help carry us boldly, yet conservatively, into that future. And I'm the person to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quander. At this time, I'd like to thank everybody for attending the Candidates Forum. As the chairman of the Yucca Valley Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to personally thank each one of the candidates for their time and their efforts tonight. I'd also like to point out that by the very act of seeking elective office, you guys demonstrate the very values that we hold dear in the Chamber of Commerce. and that's a commitment to personal service to others, a dedication to your fellow citizens, a desire to improve Yucca Valley, and a willingness to provide leadership, and that is never a simple task, and it's often a thankless one. So I appreciate your efforts, and I wish each of you the very best of luck. And I thank each of our citizens who attended our meeting. We hope that everybody votes. It is our right as a citizen, it is our duty, and it is something we should be grateful for eternally. And I, for one, will be voting, and I hope everybody else does. Thank you for your time. I wish you all a good evening. And just for the record, I got out on time as promised. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Appreciate it sharing the days with you and good luck in the campaign.